A very warm welcome to today's panel discussion, because we want to talk about the future of catalogs, tradition versus digitalization. And maybe you can introduce yourselves. Hello, Jürgen Meyer, Hoffmann Group from Munich. So we're a wholesaler of tools, and I'm in charge of data management and governance, and this also includes PIM, priint, MDM, and data governance. My name is Arthur Wolzner-Feldmeier. I represent the WAGO company and responsible for all digitalization topics, products, experience management, data modeling, to all the way up to strategy, everything. Well, I'll conclude. My name is Jürgen Panek. I come from the EDE, Einkaufsbüro Deutscher Eisenhändler, and I'm in charge of digital services. And we've pooled everything around data governance, PIM, data sourcing, management, exports, etc., and everything that goes with it. Now, your companies and you have dealt for a number of years with how to communicate with customers, and those at the print day will definitely have heard our tour and your lectures. How long have you looked at how to reach out to customers? Well, in a week's time, it will be exactly 20 years. And print is omnipresent for us. But it has changed so much. As I said 2 years ago in Duisburg, everything remains, but just in a different way. With me, it's really the same. It will have been 22 years next year. And in the very beginning, it was all about communication in the form of manual addressing. Lots of things were manually generated. What you now do fully automatically, and it is basically a side product, a byproduct. Now, the fully automated processes need to be personalized in such a fashion that you can become more customer specific in your exports. Not a lot has changed really, but the generation of content is much faster and far more automated. And I can actually promote the facet catalog, the category catalog again. Well, at EDE, we've been doing this for longer, and we were established in 1931, or roughly 90 years ago. We have not only looked at catalog and marketing. I come from the topic of central regulation, but for 30, 40 years, we will have looked at marketing and catalogs, supporting our dealers. We also have a legacy system that we use for producing our catalogs. We're now changing over to a modern architecture now, and this is why print and catalog production continues to be a decisive element of our marketing media set that we offer to our dealers. Over the past few years, looking at the last 30 years, many things have happened. And when we look at AI, for instance, and everything to do with data-driven marketing and digitalization, this process is taking up speed, and we're on the right track, because obviously the innovation journey has not reached its end yet. Talking about the innovation rate or pace, it's about Gen AI, the automatic generation of content. In the keynote, we learned that lots of this is volatile content for web channels, but print is a rigid medium, rather. How do you feel about this, the tradition versus digital innovation, or tradition with digital innovation? Where's the link? Well, Hoffmann finds this very hard. The first Hoffmann catalog was produced in 1936, but this is not a proper catalog. It was a brochure with a hardcover, just under 100 pages. But they already started as early as this. When I joined Hoffmann 20 years ago, there was just the Orange Bible, and that was everything we had. And we had to produce a printed catalog in order to have the database filled, not called PIM at that time, so that we could actually process further digital content. This is hard to imagine, but print was required to feed the digital channels. And today at Hoffmann, print is still omnipresent. We still have a catalog department, although it's the marketing department, actually. And this change is so hard. Of course, we've changed in content first now is the rule. But the mindset of the older colleagues, this is still deeply rooted. And funnily enough, also amongst the sales force. Although digitalization rate plays a major role, you have to go there. On the other hand, very conservative, the basic idea, and they try to introduce innovations. Arthur, you just said it. Automation, more content in less time, conveyed to people in a more personalized manner. These are topics that we try to cope with. AI, yeah, we're not very agile. We use some AI, at times it's not even noticed, but proper content generation by AI, we're only getting started there. If you say that the salespeople find it hard, is it still about the printed paper, or is it the way this catalog is presented? Both, and always published 3,500 pages, a huge volume in 4 individual volumes. Then the price has changed. You had to respond more quickly. So the amounts of printed paper could not be completed any longer because the processing times for print are so long, binding, shipping, and the cost involved. This was exactly the point, and this is why Hoffmann, a number of years ago, decided to only print every second year. Print by Horst is a finished PDF and not the paper catalog, and this is the point. The click rates for our printed catalogs are the highest on the whole homepage, on the whole website, so print continues to be important. What about EDE? Because EDE, as an association with many members, has a very broad view of the needs for catalogs. How do you see the developments? We also find that we address various target markets and that our member groups are very different in their mindset, and that the target groups are widening, and that the expectations for increased personalization is increasing, and to reach out to customers where they are in the customer journey. We're coming out of a phase where sales is almost a secondary function, where availability was key, being able to deliver. Now we're in a phase back again where you have to fight for market shares. And now we're back in a phase where we have to use sales communication and marketing strategies to build a market. And this will be the biggest challenge for our learning curve. Arthur, with you, in terms of personalization, have already taken this first step of the personalized data sheets. What was the trigger? Customers' requirements or processes? Well, both. And with us, it basically started like with you. The product database used to be the paper catalog. I am a slightly more radical person, as you know, and over the past 20 years, we have succeeded in making print catalogs, paper catalogs extinct. From next year, we will no longer print catalogs. We can talk about KPIs a little later, but this issue of print and channel-specific, this has been shelved 100%. There's only one channel left, and this is the digital channel, in which formats are actually then exported. This is decided by the systems. The benefit was the following. With this very mature data, thanks to the facet catalog or category catalog, we were able to implement this so fast. Until today, we have received so much positive feedback for this implementation, and our customers really use it very intensely, too intensively at times, putting some pressure on our server. And the beautiful thing is that through this touch point, you actually learn more about the customers themselves. We have some statistics that we're analyzing. This is, of course, a little difficult to interpret. But for us, the priint mindset that you still have has been shelved 100%. There's only digital left. There's product data, and this shouldn't be a topic today. This is an interesting point you're making. Just to be clear about it, if you say there's no more print, there's only digital, then you're basically saying that you provide the customer with the data just the way the customer needs it, regardless of the touch point, whether it's a data sheet, a marketplace, or a catalog, a printed catalog, makes no difference. So it is this digital mindset applied to the specific medium. Exactly. And the beautiful thing is, once you've created this framework from data modeling to data sourcing processes, data quality assurance processes, then it's so much fun to just implement new ideas, because then it's at the flick of a wrist. Data servers, this was only technology. Some website calling up, but most of the job was done by WAG2, but the data was there. And, well, I'm speaking of the category catalog again, but this was such a success story, because we're not only super efficient and can actually draw up a completely new catalog in minutes, but the colleagues are so enthusiastic. Nobody wants to return to the old world. Nobody wants to go back to this print mindset. Earlier, I had to verbally fight with them. No, this is not a print text. This is a text for the product, and this is used everywhere. I no longer have this discussion. Well, I'm asking you a lot, but I have one last question for you. If you say, well, the data is there now, everything is up and running, how much time did it take to not get the wrong picture? That data is an easy one. Well, it was several phases. The longest phase was the realization of the first facet or catalog. We learned a lot. This was 2 years roughly. And apart from the data, we also had the innovative software that we developed with Horst. Everything, the new layout, everything had to be rethought from scratch. And in the end, I found the 2 years completely okay. This was a time frame that the employees also need to part with this individual approach of filling the white box with some color and to avoid wasting paper, to, well, I'll just think of a completely new assortment seen through the customer's eyes. And like with Lego Technik, I combine the things, the components, and this is really fun. Jürgen, you wanted to add? Yes. We're faced with this challenge. We're actually building the automation. So the aim is 100% generation. But the challenge is the change in marketing, in the content department that goes hand in hand with this. When you come from the classical print mindset, then you love to work in InDesign, which is nice. But from the marketing viewpoint, everything must be emotionalized, although it's a classic product catalog. And I think this is exactly the difficulty. On the one hand, to make colleagues spend time on what they're better trained for and what they enjoy more. This is classical advertising, to really emotionalize visuals. And on the other hand, the fully automated customer catalog, whatever you want to call it, whether it's driven by the customer or driven by the field sales force. Closing this gap is key, and to not leave your own people behind. See what I mean? This is also a process of genesis. Can you remember what it was like when you talked about the facet catalog for the first time? Fantastic, I want to have this as well. It took us years to get that far. What about you? How do you observe or perceive these processes, this mental switch from a catalog mindset to a data mindset? I think very similar. I think we look back on similar histories, and we've seen similar paths and journeys. We discuss data-driven marketing a lot, and whether we can publish faster, and the trade-off. After all, we're all dealing with human beings, and this is why some emotionalization is needed to stir some interest and to call them to act, to either deal with the publication or use it as an inspiration to talk to dealers or visit a web store and buy at the end of the day. Regarding tradition, all companies have been established a long, long time ago, and you've not developed as a greenfield site. How difficult is it to convince these traditionalists to accept and introduce change to these processes? And what's the trick to do it? How to do it? To bring it home to the management and whet their appetite for it?
Similar as regards data governance, which we've got involved in to a much greater extent in recent times. I would say 10% is technology, 20% processes, and 70% the human being. That sounds like an extreme exaggeration, but no. Humans are the most difficult object to overcome, and you get each person is an individual. Then you get the group interests, the departmental differences. So everything has to be brought together, and this is really one of the biggest challenges. And it's irrelevant. It makes no difference whether we're talking about a catalog or something else. It's very difficult to bring this all under one roof. That's my personal opinion. Communication is key in this respect. Yes, in our case, this appears to be a classical exponential curve. In the marketing department back then, I remember the discussions I had with editors in terms of why we cannot enter technical data as into a PIM system, but we have to deposit them in data-conformed manner. This took years. And now we have reached a situation where I'm surprised myself when I see what's happened now. I think for us, what it was important was to make this a corporate strategy. Everybody was then able to identify with this. It's not just something where they say, well, someone talked about this at some stage in a keynote speech, but it shows us that the success of the company is dependent on this. Now we have a data strategy. We have a panel with a lot of people who are getting involved on a voluntary basis. Beforehand, it was the pioneers who said we have to do this, but now things are these people made things and said we have to make things complicated now to make it easier later. It's very difficult to convince people of this. That's the human factor. You're absolutely right. But as soon as you get some momentum and you see the first signs of success, for example, with the facette catalog or market data sheets, then that becomes then an automatic self-motivating process. And then it has to be imposed from top to bottom, and people told how important this is. In our case, it's a bit more complicated. We're not talking just about EDE, but whenever we want to introduce this type of changes or new things to the market, we have to talk about our customer groups, and we're talking about department stores with centuries of tradition, and convincing these to take a new approach is sometimes easy, sometimes difficult. One thing I can say is that the factor human being is very important. Less PowerPoint and more practical examples showing live. It's showing live things has much more effect if we can demonstrate things live and then encourage people to think in MVPs, to put something together so that you can see something. And this makes the whole thing easier. It makes it easier to convince managers, the top hierarchical levels, and then the whole staff can be convinced. And once you get a mass in momentum, then there's no stopping it anymore. Yes, that brings us back to the exponential curve. Yeah. So perhaps for me, the summary, if I were to draw a conclusion here, I've not been able to listen to many of the presentations in the last couple of days, but the good thing is everything is being recorded, so we can look later at what we've missed. And I think Christoph is from Möbel Pfister. We heard a lot about the factor human being, how the first project failed on the basis of technical problems, but ultimately on the lack of acceptance among the staff. And we had to create this acceptance first of all. And here we've heard from you, and this morning from Fisher, we've learned that once the data are available, once this painful step has been completed, then we have the possibility to concern ourselves with the interesting things. Yes, we will soon be carrying out a migration process. Data quality is the be-all and end-all in terms of making progress. And if we don't achieve the data quality, well, I'm sorry, but then there will be no basis for future developments. There's a need for data quality streamlining in order to be able to migrate data to other systems. In print, where we have to bring together complex structures, whether manual or semi-manual or automated, the data quality must match to enable merging. For AI, I need data quality to avoid hallucination. So data quality is the be-all and end-all, the basis for everything that is to come later. And then we get the next steps in terms of automation, optimization. There are also other factors, for example, the human being, but we is something that makes, I'm very pleased that Hoffmann now wishes to go down this route. 5 years ago, the situation would have looked different. We would have been more lethargic. But you said, you talk about a strategy. There's the backing is available from the top management, and that's so important because sometimes you perhaps think that the middle management are the people who are least convinced about facing the future with new ideas, new technologies. Top management fully involved, staff are motivated, but the problem area are middle management. That's my personal perception. Other people see things differently. That's my personal opinion. But I have a great team, and work is fun. Yes, I would underline that. Once you've done your homework The first steps are very difficult because, first of all, you have to learn a lot, and with these data maintenance processes, a lot can be automated. There are many technical solutions to accompany us along the route to make things easier, so that at some stage the subject of data ceases to be a problem. Talking about catalog, putting together a catalog, that's no problem. If the editor is interested in doing something completely new, then I would say this is really just a fraction of the time in which you have to concern yourself with the catalog. Otherwise, we implement completely new ideas, whether we have some cool things in the pipeline that I will present at the next print day. I don't want to give you too much advanced information, and that is much more fun, because in the past, okay, the editor said, I've got the catalog, it's ready. You may have patted the product manager on the shoulder, and the situation was the same every year. But now we are constantly faced with new things, and the experience of success is completely different, because now sometimes you have to take new risks, take completely new things where you do recurrent things, and it's a lot more fun. And I really underestimated this in terms of these projects. I underestimated how much fun and pleasure the colleagues in the team could derive. Yes, I think joy in innovation, I think, is more important than ever today. And our experience shows that we have to try these innovations. Sometimes things go wrong. We're always talking about data quality, and today we do a lot in terms of preparing data using AI, and we train models. And there we are always faced by setbacks. You can't get data quality through AI at the push of a button. It's hard work. But to achieve a situation where you understand the system is never complete and that you constantly have to do new things, I think that's something we have to learn. And the aim then is to get better every day, to have fun in developing something, whether the development actually takes place because we are obliged to do this for regulatory reasons, or whether it's simply the result of new technological opportunities opening up new possibilities. Well, digitization is constantly developing, so I think that must become part of our culture. And once it's anchored in the culture, then I think we can celebrate good success relatively quickly. Something to add in terms of data quality. Yesterday and today, we've heard a lot about AI and how you can relatively quickly use historical sources of information to obtain data. For us as a manufacturer, yesterday we were asked the question, who ultimately is telling the truth? If we as a manufacturer cannot tell the truth about our products, then who can? We have to assert ourselves with our truth against all the others. We have to use channels to conjure up something through AI. So I think data modeling, data quality is extremely important, because only in this way, whether I'm talking about AI or any other process, only in this way can I get the quality to a point where I can tell the truth and be the owner of this truth and assert myself later. That's a big problem at present, and that will become a much bigger problem in future. With all the platforms available that that are removing the decision-making platform for us and a manufacturer with all the touch points. If people are left to make their own choice, then we're out of the equation. Yes. The truth, the manufacturer truth, well, that's so-so. Jürgen will probably confirm. The difficult is that as a dealer, you are confronted with a lot of You have to deal with a lot of product groups, a lot of suppliers from greatly differing areas in which we offer our products, and bringing these all together under one roof as part of our data model is a big challenge. And that too has to be shown in a catalog or any other form of print model or output. And this getting all this data collecting together, data deliveries are very different as well. Obviously, today we can generate data ourselves or buy them, but the data come from the most differing sources. And that is a big challenge that we cannot neglect, in particular in the retail trade. And if we, as a manufacturer, do things better, then that makes things easier for you. Yes, a rare agreement between manufacturers and retail. I think that brings us more or less to the end. One short question to see if I can summarize correctly. Tradition meets digitization, the future of catalogs. That's the subject. So my understanding was that under the bonnet, everything would change because everything has to be changed, everything has to be digitized, but the result is something that the customer needs, a product, a catalog, an online shop. So I think the future for catalogs looks quite good if they are needed. Yes, I would underline that. I think the decisive point is that you meet the customer where they are. Okay, digitization means that the touch points in the customer journey are increasing exponentially, and we've not reached the end of the road. And I think it's important for everybody to be at the point where their clientele is and to be present at the right place with the right offer, and that increases the possibility of success. I see things a bit more controversially. I'm not quite so sure. And now I'm pushing forward a bit. Next year we won't have a print catalog, at least not the main volumes. The question is, what's the alternative? PDF. So PDF, it can be printable. If anybody absolutely wants a paper format, they can print the PDF. My plan is that from 2026 we will cease to be involved in any form of paper format. So 22nd, 23rd, 2026 is the next print day here in this building. Make your travel plans, book your hotel, and then we will hear a presentation by you on how things have gone. Well, I don't know if we will have completed everything, but then I don't know. But I think in 2026 we will really get going with the subject. We'll have to see how well it is received. Perhaps proof of concept is something we've already tried. In addition to the innovative data sheet service, we have a product comparison. Some people say it's a product brochure. We present it as a product comparison, and we've taken a deliberate decision to move away from all paper formats. So our product comparison can include up to 670 products. And if I were to print it out, I would have a tremendously wide piece of paper. We assume that nobody will be prepared to print this anymore, whether a printer or a printing company. So now we are taking the route of becoming completely digital without printing out anything on paper. I think any type of broad paper format is impracticable. So my question is, what will be the successor? Yesterday I talked to Adobe, because something that irritates me is why Adobe is not making the PDF standard capable for this added value. Many companies will say goodbye to paper and will only publish in digital form. But there should, if possible, be an added value, interactive, for example. It is not intended to replace a website, but we have a gap between the result of the search results and the data sheet view. There's a big gap in between. that today is closed by a catalog, paper catalog. In future, the question will be, who closes this gap? Will it be done by print suite or perhaps by using online technology? And I think the subject will be, we will move away from individual products through to a complete application to the customer's view of a product. The customer has a problem, they need a solution, and in future will be more interested in the technical details of the individual products. So the question, will this be taken on by PIM? Yesterday on the panel discussion that was not quite clear, or will we at some stage say we've got online technology, we will create entities from the data model to map products, and then perhaps do PIM and publishing as a side issue. 20 years ago, we moved away from a manual landing page to a type of catalog. That's an important aspect. This is an important subject. We used the title expert system. This started 10, 15 years ago, parallel to the development of print. And this, in terms of content, for us, this is completely isolated from bridging. The PIM data are used, but then they are added to the expert system, which is enriched with additional data, in particular in the tool sector. And I think that is something that makes this mix what it is. I think highly surprising. I'm very interested to hear how things progress with you, because I think paper is something that will be called into question in the medium term, but I'm not sure whether this look and feel of a catalog, of a printed brochure, can be removed that quickly. Well, I don't know. We have some customers who are not allowed to use digital devices. There are quite a lot. There are not many, but there are these, and I must cater to them. And that's a basic subject that I'm constantly hearing. The mixture is the important thing. The customer must be at the focal point. The customer, it must be possible to approach the customer. For example, if you've got a boss, the head of a company, coming up to retirement age, he will think differently to his young people who think only digitally. Say, I have an electronic catalog and we use e-procurement systems to sell. That's a totally different business, completely removed from print. And then these people, some people come along and say, well, can't you print that out? And then sometimes we come full circle, or we say these people have gone, they've now moved to e-procurement, and years ago the requests for printed catalogs were deleted, and now we're sometimes in a situation where people say in the past the products were next to one another in the catalog, now they're individual. Don't you have a PDF that you can provide us with? And for me, this brings us full circle. The customer must receive the instrument through which my products are sold most effectively. So my conclusion, everything remains different. Okay, we're just 2 minutes over time. That's not too bad for today. Arthur? Yes. In our case, the change is somewhat more radical. I'm interested to see how things develop. If you do your homework, then things go quicker. For me, it was very surprising. Last year, we announced and said we want to stop printing in paper. There were some waves. This year, it's being communicated from the very top with the corresponding figures, KPIs, 50 tons of paper. The major part of customers are not, of catalogs are not used by customers. We spend an awful lot of money on printing paper for us, and then people say, no, I don't actually use it. It just lies around. And if you look at the KPIs. Nobody can say we need the paper. We can do without it. And at least the customers under 45, a printed catalogue is completely of no interest for them. Important is to put the customer at the focal point, and then it's the question of which target groups, which target markets do we wish to surface. We operate internationally, and there the situation is so that in some regions, even in Germany, internet is not present, and sometimes it's a good thing to have something haptic in paper form. And for us, our observation today, if we talk about KPIs, is that this type of catalogue is by all means suitable for creating traffic in online shops when new products are introduced. Thank you very much. No more questions, but I think most of the colleagues will be around or contactable.